To discuss the political developments in Ekiti State, I've now been joined by Moses Jolayemi, who is the chairman, media advisory team for Segun Oni. He joins us from our Lagos studios. And of course, here in Abuja, I have a Rise Analyst Professor Abiodun Adeniyi, who is also an expert in strategic communications with Bayes University. Gentlemen, very warm welcome to Newsnight. Maybe I should start with Moses Jolayemi in our Lagos studios. Moses, if you can hear me, tell us, what are the fears being expressed in the forthcoming governorship elections in Ekiti State?
Well, thank you very much for having me. When you talk about fears, as a matter of fact, the SDP and the Segun Oni campaign organization have no fears at all. The fears are only coming from the camp of, call them losers, because it's when you feel that you're losing ground, that is when you resort to the kind of nonsense that you saw 4 days ago, according to Shakespeare, when things do so conjointly happen, let no man say they are natural, for they are portentous things upon the land on which they point. These guys have seen defeat staring them, clearly in the face, and I think they have run out of ideas. They have run out of tactics. There have been a lot of propaganda stories here and there. They have done a whole lot of things. They made sure that Segun Oni did not win the primary of PDP because their greatest fear is Segun Oni coming out to run. Now, unfortunately for them, Segun Oni is out. That is the naked truth. There's nothing anybody can do about it. Segun Oni is out, and so their nightmare has started. How do you explain a situation where a campaign train of a governorship candidate, is, being attacked by hoodlums with stones, with cutlasses, with guns, and all that? If you know that you are popular and you are sure that you are going to win an election, why do you have to, silence the opponent? Why do you have to make it impossible for them to campaign? I'll tell you this. In Segun Oni's hometown of Ifaki, the biggest billboard or banner is that of one of the opponents, and nobody has touched it. In fact, if you touch it, I'm sure Segun Oni will be very angry with you.
All right,
this
Moses,
is a man who wants a level playing field.
Let me come in here, Moses Jolayemi, please. Pardon me for cutting in. I just want to quickly bring to the notice of our viewers that the Publicity Secretary of the All Progressives Congress in Ekiti State, Segun Dikpe, had earlier agreed to join this conversation via Zoom from Ado Ekiti, but opted out at the last minute. Okay, your narrative well taken. Let me turn to a Rise Analyst, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi. It looks as if the Nigerian syndrome of do-or-die politics elections is still, very much with us. Over 22 years of democratic culture. Are we imbibing anything? Are we learning anything, Prof?
Well, if we're learning, I think we're slow about it. And of course, in the build-up to an election like this, we're in a pre-election season with respect to Ekiti. What is transpiring is not absolutely new. It's one of the kind of things that we expect to see. But this disappointment is that we'll have expected that by now, we'll have learned to douse tension, to prevent anxiety, to ensure that, processes are speak and span, and that we should just, like you said earlier, we should not necessarily be die-hearted, realizing that the essence of political contestation is to serve the people and not necessarily to serve ourselves. And there's no reason for us to be vociferous, trying to undo the other, trying to introduce crisis, So the onus is now on the populace and maybe the elders of the parties, to rein in and talk to the main political gladiators on the need for them to prioritize, to privilege peace in the interest of the Ekiti people that they are coming out to serve. And I want to believe as well that the General Abdulsalami Committee, National Peace Committee, will soon get down to work in Ekiti, because it's important that the election, the campaign is getting to a crescendo. This is the time for the General, my Lord Bishop Kuka, and their team, to step into Ekiti and perhaps begin to talk to the gladiators. What we need is peace. Ekiti is an off-cycle election, off-season election. It's often a template for the general election. So we need to get Ekiti right, and there's another one coming up, Osun. We also need to get it right in the build-up to the general election. What more can we say other than to appeal to all the principals, to just privilege priests, and to make the way they participate in the election process a beacon, because Ekiti is ordinarily a sophisticated state, peopled, by some of the most educated citizens in this country, and we want that savviness, that elegance reflected in the way they play their politics. Christian.
Thank you very much for your submission there, Prof. Moses, let me come back to you. I mean, apart from just that one incident you pointed out, are there other hindrances that your principal is finding in reaching his supporters and in driving his agenda for his second coming?
Absolutely none. Absolutely none. All the places that we had been before Efualaye, what we had was rousing welcome every step of the way. When Segun Oni came, to Ekiti after, joining the SDP, I'm sure you saw the mammoth crowd. You saw how everybody trooped out, because this is what they have been waiting for. Ekiti has long suffered. Ekiti has long waited for good governance. It's like Segun Oni went away with governance when he left about 12 years ago. So people are thirsty, they are hungry, they are yearning, they want a change, a real change. So our campaign has not been facing any kind of hindrances. I mean, the support base is so encouraging, and that's why you see Segun Oni is a man of peace. It's not as if what happened in Efualaye we could not stand up to them. They are not more than us. We are indeed far more than them, but we love peace. Like Professor Adeniyi said, we are peace-loving people in Ekiti, and we are, sophisticated people, educated people. We are not hoodlums. We are not hooligans. So we are not going to join them in that game of hooliganism. But at the same time, nobody has monopoly of violence. We are not going to engineer it. We are not going to instigate it. But when the people are tired, you can imagine what will happen. And we are almost getting there. This is why it is important for the federal government, for INEC, for the security agencies, for everyone concerned about democracy in Nigeria to please step into the situation in Ekiti before it's leads to complete anarchy, because Ekiti people are not fools, and they cannot be cowed down. Moses, they are not people that can be intimidated.
Yeah, but Moses, you just said earlier in your submission that your campaign is going on very well, that there has not been any further threat, but your principal, Engineer Segun Oni, had written a petition to the Inspector General of Police and other security agencies about threats to his life. So where is this coming from?
Yes, that is coming from the incident that took place in Efualaye. You understand? Before then, we had no problem. And I think the success of the campaign, the turnout has been their nightmare. So they were like, oh no, we can't take this no more. They had no other ideas other than to resort to that barbaric act. So we didn't have any problem before then, but now they have started. And if they don't stop,
very much. Just leave it hanging
like I
there.
said, nobody has a monopoly.
Just leave it hanging there. We don't want anything that is going to, cause any mayhem or fears into the people. Prof, let me turn to you. Does the crowd make any difference during political rallies or campaigns and the rest? Is it, sine qua non to say that, oh, this is the man that is going to win the election, so these are, making a suggestion on how the votes will go?
Christian, it could be one of many things. Of course, sometimes we know that some of these crowds, if you find them with candidate A, you are likely to find the same set of people with candidate B. So oftentimes it just appears as if the aspirants go to shop from the same market for crowd, It may not even up to popularity in some cases, but in some cases it might also be part of it. But essentially we know how things play out. It may not even be how much you campaign. Winning may not be a function of how well you campaign, how far you traverse all the territories that you are supposed to get to. It may be decided maybe hours before the election, given the transactional characteristics of the electioneering process. And that's why we keep talking about some level of reorientation so that we can have, a much more elegant, transparent, credible electionary process, so that at the end of the day, candidates will feel a sense of obligation to the people, not feeling that they probably just purchased their votes in the first instance. That there might be this tendency to feel that, well, I've bought it, and of course I cannot ride roughshod on you at the end of the day.
Yes, indeed. But when you, as a professor of strategic communication, for example, in the Southwest, where it's predominantly Yoruba speaking people, and you listen to their campaign messages, it is in songs, in lyrics, it is usually abusive from one party to the other. Is that not enough to, to swell and create this kind of tension that we are beginning to see? I think
in fairness to them, to the Southwesterner that you have mentioned, it is the character of political processes, political campaigns, for you to have nitpicking reproofs, abuses, insults, jabs, body shaming, things for people to go personal against the other candidate. And that's why politicians are regard them as very, very strong people anyway, because some of these insults can actually be demeaning, but they take it in their strides most of the time, and they still power on to go on and win the election or to continue to play their act. So it's one of the things that we'll see in an electionary season. But what matters is for us to be temperate at the end of the day, realizing that, we are actually hoping to get into power, not necessarily to serve yourself, but to serve the people. And if we are serving the people, there's an extent in which we should go for that, in creating damaging the system, damaging psyches of the people that we want to go and serve in the first instance. That's a contradiction that is still bedeviling us as a people. But in the circumstance of Ekiti that is preparing for election, I expect that at some point security agencies will begin to move in, but moving in shouldn't just be hours to the election. This is the time for them to begin to take charge of the campaign processes so that peace can continue to reign and there won't be deaths, incidences and all of that we used to see in some cases. Now, of course, it's just Ekiti. It's a one-off kind of election. They have all the human resources, all the personnel that they can deploy to Ekiti. So it's not a question of being overstretched. Attention should be given to Ekiti so that we can have a free, fair, credible election. And once more, like we had it in Ondo, like in Edo the other day, like we also had it in Ondo. Yeah, Ekiti can be a template, for Osun and the general election in 2023.
Absolutely, because that's exactly what INEC intends to do, to use it as a template, test some of the provisions of the Electoral Act. But Moses, let me come to you again. For the security of your principal and your teaming supporters, have you gotten in touch with the police or more security so that we don't want any wanton loss of life and property? Tell us.
Thank you very much, but let me quickly just correct something within, few seconds. The Prof talked about crowd rental. I want to tell you on very clear terms that one, we don't have that luxury of buying crowd, you know. When love begins to sicken and decay, Shakespeare says it useth an enforced ceremony. There are no tricks in simple and plain love. What is happening in Ekiti State is very simple for anybody to know. We don't need to rent a crowd. I'm not sure we can even afford the kind of crowd that are following us now. So having said that, let me answer your question straight. We have done the needful because we are law-abiding people. We are decent people. We have written petition to, the law enforcement agencies, and we have got assurances that, they will do the needful, and we believe they will do the needful. And that is why we are confident to go on with our campaign, believing that the security agents or agencies will do their job. So
right.
we have the assurance.
Oh, fantastic.
Fantastic.
So there is nothing to worry about or fear about then. Thanks so very much, Moses Jolayemi. He is the spokesperson of the Segun Oni's campaign organization in Ekiti State. Thanks very much for joining us on Newsnight. And Professor Abiodun Adeniyi, a RISE analyst and expert in strategic communications with Bayes University in Abuja.